Hey everybody, my name is Amanda Lamkin and I am the owner of Line by Lion Publications, a small publishing house, as well as the co-owner of Pixel and Pen Studios, which is a community for artists and authors and other creative types. I have been thinking about doing a YouTube channel for a while, and I've been putting it off because of soul crushing imposter syndrome, and also because, as you can tell, I don't have the fancy setup with the backdrop and stuff, and I don't have any photo editing software. And I don't know, really just didn't seem like it was something I was that passionate about. But something has happened in the last couple days that has kind of ignited the fire within me, and I still don't have editing software or a backdrop. So it will get better, I promise. But right now, I just have something that I want to say. And this concerns the brouhaha that is currently going on regarding Dr. Seuss's estate's decision to remove 6 of his titles from distribution and publication. I desperately want to believe that most of the people that are so very, very angry right now are speaking out of a combination of love and nostalgia for these books and ignorance. And I don't mean ignorance in the way that it's often taken nowadays, where it's some sort of insult, but I mean lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge of the publishing process, lack of knowledge of who Dr. Seuss was. I believe that 10% of people are engaging in logistical fallacies, and I'll be addressing that as well. This is the point where if I had photo or video editing software, something cute would come up that said something like, point number 1, publishing contracts. So just imagine that that's happened. This right here is a publishing contract. It is a sample contract from my publishing house. And I want to read to you some things that it says. It says, right under number 1, giant, the author hereby grants and assigns to the publisher the exclusive rights to publish in the English language in physical book, digital ebook, and or audiobook form in all countries of the world works now entitled blank. Yay, blank. Exclusive rights terminate 3 years after the initial publication date of the work. After 3 years, Line by Lion and the author retain the right to negotiate a continuation of this agreement. If no request for relationship continuation is made within 30 days prior to the expiration, or no mutual agreement is reached within 90 days of presentation of new agreement, prior contract terminates. There is a second one, and it is the contract buyout provision. And I am not going to read this to you because the specifics of how I run my publishing house really aren't something I want to get into right this second. But basically what it goes to is the author has the option to purchase all publication rights from the publisher during the exclusivity period of this agreement. So if for any reason I am still holding up my contractual end of the bargain, but they want out for whatever reason, and they have the option to buy out. Now, if either of these things happen, if our contract terminates and the author does not choose to find another source for publication and distribution, if they are unable to find another source for publication or distribution, if they want to rewrite it, if they feel like their work no longer reflects them, if any one of a million things happen, that book goes out of print. It is no longer published or distributed. In fact, it would be illegal for me to publish or distribute it at that point. There are so many reasons that an author can choose to do this. Perhaps they don't want to be an author anymore. Perhaps they feel like that work is no longer reflective of who they are as a person. Perhaps they feel like the work is no longer profitable, or the publisher feels like the work is no longer profitable. and then the book goes out of print. And it happens all the time. Authors that currently have books out of print include Stephen King, Nora Roberts, Norman Rockwell, and me. I have one that is currently out of print because I discovered that the editing wasn't up to my standards, because there was a bit of a shenanigan regarding someone questioning my personal character because of the sexual nature of the book. And so the book is currently out of print while I figure out what I want to do about it. This is not uncommon, and it's really no different than High C no longer producing Ecto Cooler, or Taco Bell with their nacho fries, or if they're hoping to release a new edition, then it's McDonald's with their McRib. Guys, it's business. It is a combination of personal decision and marketability and profitability, and it's not personal. Do you understand? It is not personal. It is business, and it happens all the time. And so, in this case, the estate of Dr. Seuss chose to rescind the rights they had given to the publisher and the distributor to allow these books to continue to be published and distributed. This was not censorship. This is not the government reaching out and doing anything. This is not cancel culture. This was a decision on behalf of one of the contract holders and not the publisher. So you can't even be mad at the publisher for being a snowflake or whatever people are saying. It is the family, the estate, who decided to do this. So that's why those books are no longer available new. They are available used if you have to have one. But it was a business decision. And it is a not uncommon business decision. So that is part the first. And now let's move on to part the second. And I'm going to grab my notes here. And part the second is why it should be unsurprising that Dr. Seuss's estate chose to do this. All right, so when Dr. Seuss was a younger man, he did have a large history of engaging and writing racist cartoons. In 1929, he published a cartoon that was a cross-section of the world's most dangerous department store. And it showed people that had black skin and big red lips. And it said, "Take home a high grade," and I will not say that word, "for your woodpile, satisfaction guaranteed." When he was the editorial cartoonist for PM magazine, particularly in the times of World War II, he urged the killing of the Japs and wrote and published several cartoons having to do that. But, and here's the but, right? It's a big but. I like big buts and I cannot lie. It is a big but, and that is later in his life, he realized that these things had been hurtful. And he took steps to remedy it. Horton Hears a Who was long said to be his way of redeeming himself for the things that he said about the Japanese. It was all about trying to undo some of the damage that he had done. The Sneetches, the story of the Sneetches was all about trying to undo the damage that he had done with some of his racist cartoons, because he got better, and then he did better. Now the estate who are which is made up of families and associates of Dr. Seuss, knew this about him. They knew that he had regrets. They knew that he wanted to redeem himself for these things that he had did. And so when it came to light that in today's age, these 6 books were offensive, they did what they believe would be his wishes. Okay, I'm going to say that again. They did what they thought he would want them to do. This is not something being snatched away from him. This is them acting as his proxy in the way that they believe that he would have acted. Dr. Seuss at the end of his days was rather liberal and rather progressive, and his estate firmly believes that if this was something that was hurting somebody, that he would not want them out there, which is why they made this decision back in 2019 and announced it on his birthday this year as a positive thing. If you look on the website, they announced it as a positive thing because they felt they were working to uphold who he was. So if you are mad because you feel like the image of Dr. Seuss is being dragged through the mud, please understand that his family did this in honor of him. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 has to do with logistical fallacies, and this is where the word nerd comes out a little bit, okay? Again, I want you to picture a banner coming across that says point number 3. And point number 3 is this. I'm seeing a lot of people who are posting things about Megan Thee Stallion's WAP and how that is acceptable, but Dr. Seuss books aren't acceptable. And I need you to know that what you are engaging in is something called whataboutism. And whataboutism was a term that was coined in 1978. And it refers to a rhetorical device or a logistical fallacy which serves to deflect from or distract from the topic at hand by referring to something else. And the problem with whataboutism is if your logic doesn't hold up, if this is a false equivalency, if these things are not equivalent, then your whole argument falls apart, and that's what's happening right now for 2 reasons. 1, vulgarity is not the same as bigotry. Okay, we're going to go back to high school algebra class, right, when we were doing inequalities, okay? Bigotry is worse than, so we'll go with greater than, little alligator mouth, chomp chomp. Bigotry is greater than vulgarity. And the reason for that is this, okay? Something that is vulgar, it is tacky. It is offensive to some. But it is not aiming to tear down somebody else. It is not making somebody else less than. And so while vulgarity may be offensive to you, it is not harming you. Bigotry is harming those people that it is aimed at. And so that is why this is a false equivalency, because it's not the same thing. The second reason that this logistical fallacy just is a fallacy, is it doesn't hold up, is because Dr. Seuss books are aimed at children. WAP is not aimed at children. Megan Thee Stallion does not let her children listen to this song. Okay, it's not aimed at children. So the levels of acceptability are not expected to be the same, guys. I mean, come on now. There's a bunch of things that are okay for adults that are not okay for children. And you may think that WAP is not okay for anybody, and that's fine. I am not here to tell you what to think or what to believe. But you need to understand that those are not the same. And if you understand that, then you understand that the whole premise that you are basing your whataboutism falls apart. So, here's the thing, guys. Here's what I'm trying to say. I understand you're hurt. I understand that you are upset. I understand that you feel like something is being taken away from you. To be honest, the more I've been learning about Joss Whedon lately, I've been going through something similar, right? And that's a topic for another day. But you feel like something's being taken away from you. But what I need you to understand is this is not cancel culture. This is not big government. Okay. This was a personal and business decision. And one that I, as a publisher, have made. Ones that authors that I've worked with have made before. It's not the end of the world. Dr. Seuss, his works are still out there. They're still alive and well. And so is your childhood. And it's going to be okay. but I need you to stop suppressing false information and getting yourself all worked up, because that's no good for anybody. So, hopefully, this is the first of many times that you'll hear from me. Good night.